Namaskar, dear students. Today we will discuss some poems of Walt Whitman, one of the greatest poets of America. And regarding him, some critics have given very interesting opinions. According to Mary Smith Whitall Costello, she says, you can't really understand America without Walt Whitman. So Walt Whitman is very important, and you may say he is the most important poet of America. And Ezra Pound, the modernist poet, he says Whitman as America's poet. Definitely, he was the most influential, of all the poets of America. Now, he was born in 1819 and died in the year 1892. He taught in some rural schools till 1841. Then, from his birthplace, that is Long Island, he traveled to New Orleans and he worked for one periodical called Crescent. And according to critics, this journey brought about a complete change of attitude in Whitman. He came back with a prophetic zeal, ready to speak for America as a whole. So what do we mean by prophetic zeal? So prophecy should not be taken only in the sense of telling about future or future telling. It is something which is related to a desire. It is related to a desire to teach, to inspire. So Whitman has expressed his prophetic zeal in his poetry. That means he has tried to teach and inspire. That is how he is a great poet of having prophetic zeal. Following Emerson, Whitman sets out to give American poetry a distinctive voice, an identity which is American. After Emerson, Whitman appears as the most important poet of America, and he wants to give a distinct identity to American poetry. He includes everything, the high, the low, the common in his poetry. His aim to be the bard of America and present a stock American personality echoing American speech patterns and locale is clearly outlined in his three prefaces to Leaves of Grass. Leaves of Grass is the masterpiece. It is regarded as the masterpiece of Whitman, and it had different editions. It was first published in 1855 and till 1856 this volume was called Poems of Walt Whitman, an American. In 1860 the title was changed to Walt Whitman, and later in 1881 it was given the present title, that is Leaves of Grass. And Whitman prepared the final deathbed edition of Leaves of Grass in 1891-92, soon after which he died. Now, the significance of Whitman in American poetry is that I would rather say that he worked as a bridge between two philosophical, concepts, two philosophical phases. One is transcendentalism and another is realism. So here we have to understand what is transcendentalism. It was a philosophical movement of 1820s and 1830s. Particularly, it was very popular in, that is the eastern part of America, and it was a belief in the inherent goodness of people. Transcendentalism believed in the inherent goodness of people. It believed that people are genuinely good, but it also viewed that people are generally corrupted by society and social institutions. So that is the core issue, core value or concept of this transcendentalism. Now, after that, there was another ism, another philosophical movement that is in America, that is realism. You can see it in the middle of the 19th century till the beginning of the 20th century. Now, what is realism? Realism is a philosophy that did not believe in romanticization. People generally, sometimes try to romanticize certain things, try to, eulogize extravagantly, and realism tried to did away with all these things, and they put emphasis on familiar things, everyday activity as they are, and they didn't believe in romanticization of things. Now, Whitman, as a poet and philosopher, he worked as a bridge between transcendentalism and realism. So he was born in 1819, and during his lifetime, he saw the great philosophical movements like transcendentalism and realism, and he served as a bridge between the two. Now, Whitman, even though he realizes that the expression of the American poet is to be transcendent and new, he does not reject old or foreign influences on American writing. This is very significant. He calls America the race of races, and in the light of its composite culture, it is natural for the poet to have an open, inclusive outlook. See, he believed in the composite culture of America because America is not a very old nation. Only the Europeans started settling there after it was discovered by Columbus, and people from different nations of Europe went and settled there. So America is said to be the race of races. Whitman says it, the race of races. Unlike his predecessors, Whitman's poetry projects a greater range and freedom. It is less inhibited and is more realistic in nature. It is very realistic. As I told you, he moves away from this transcendental philosophy and he sets his foot on realism. So his poetry is very realistic in nature. Whitman holds that poetry can inspire itself with science and modern. According to him, poetry can inspire. Poetry has a particular function to do. It has a social function. It can inspire people. His down-to-earth attitude to natural phenomena, celebration of human sexuality, and placing of the body at par with the soul are the outcome of this scientific orientation. So, considering a man in the early part of the 19th century, Whitman was far ahead of his time. He very freely talked of, sexuality, or the sexuality which is a reality in life. He talked about that very freely in his poetry. He calls for a change of attitude towards sexuality as an element of character, personality, the emotions, and a theme in literature. So that is how he treated sexuality in his poetry also. No poet before Whitman on either side of Atlantic had been prepared to discuss the bearings of human sexuality on human relations or character to this extent. No other poet from either side of the Atlantic, that means from the European side and also from American side, no other poet had discussed so openly, so candidly, without any inhibition regarding sexuality as was done by Whitman. Whitman's dislike of any kind of restraint is reflected in his free verse. One thing we must remember that he is known as the father of free verse in American poetry. Free verse, it is a type of writing poems without any rhyme or rhythm There may be internal rhythm, but there is no rhyme scheme. So he was a master of free verse and is appropriately regarded as father of free verse in American poetry. Now the thing is that he did not like any kind of restraint. He did not like any kind of control. You know, when a poet is trying to write within the parameters or within the particular limit of a stanza pattern, maybe say you may take the example of heroic couplet. If a poet is going to write in heroic couplets, so he cannot express whatever he likes to express in a free and frank manner. He has to limit all his expressions within the boundaries or within the limitations of the heroic couplet. But a free verse allows a poet to ventilate, to express his feelings and emotions, his attitudes and ideas in a very free and frank manner without any restraint. So that is reflected. Actually, as a poet, he did not like any control, and that is reflected in his free verse. The free flow of words would in no way be disciplined by formal verse patterns. Emerson had pointed out that content determines the form in a poem, and Whitman affirms this. So what you try to understand, you must understand that for Whitman and Emerson, it is not the form which will determine the content, it is the content which will determine the form. That means your form of the poem will be molded according to the subject matter that the poet is going to deal with. The poetic quality is not marshaled in rhyme or uniformity. So importance is not given to rhyme and uniformity, but it's in the soul. It is in the soul of the poet. For him, poetry is inspirational. There is no writing to a pre-planned design. So he does not write with a pre-planned design, and he thinks that poetry is something inspirational. It can inspire people, inspire the readers. As he explains, poetic style when addressed to soul is less definite in form, outline, sculpture, and becomes distant. It follows that for Whitman the poet is a seer and a sayer like Carlyle's Fates. Just like the Fates of Carlyle, for Whitman, poet is a seer. He can see the things. He is a visionary. He can have a vision and he can share his vision. He can share his thoughts and ideas among his people, among his readers. Laying claims to prophecy, he explains that it is not a mistake to narrow the term down to predictions only. As I was telling you before some time, prophecy should not be taken only in the sense of prediction. Citing the Hebrew word for prophecy, he writes that a prophet is one whose mind is charged with ideas which pour forth in a rush. So, a prophet is a person whose mind is charged with ideas. His mind is a mansion of beautiful, inspiring ideas, and he will definitely inspire the people, inspire the readers by his ideas. He is a man possessed. Prediction is only a minor part of prophecy. So prophecy, in general terms, we mean telling something about future or making some prediction, but it has a broader connotation. It should not be only meant to be the prediction or telling something about the future. It is inspirational. It is all about ideas which will be ennobling, invigorating the people, the society. So prophet is a person who is possessed, and the poet too has a prophetic role to play in that he becomes a transparent medium and his outpourings become poetry. So what a poet is, he is a transparent medium. He is a medium through which ideas flow. Ideas flow into the society to enrich it. It is in this sense that Whitman tries to be the bard of America. So he says, he declares his intention that he wants to emerge as the poet of America, the bard of America, or what you may say, the national poet of America. Now, this is a very brief introduction to Walt Whitman, and I am trying to explain the things as I used to do in the class, in a classroom situation. If you find the video useful, you may subscribe to my channel by pressing the bell icon so that you can get all the future uploads very quickly. Now I will tell you something about songs of myself, or what you can say, not songs but song of myself. What is song of myself? Actually, it is a part of Leaves of Grass, the masterpiece of Whitman. As I told you, Leaves of Grass, the poem, or you may say it is a long epic, you may say, in which the poet undertakes a journey and he goes on discovering nature, discovering himself, discovering America, and he's going to speak about America, representing the core of Whitman's poetic vision. So Leaves of Grass actually represent the core of Whitman's poetic vision. Now, Song of Myself, it consists of 52 sections. So there are 52 sections in Song of Myself. It is actually the song of America, the epic he continued to write and rewrite throughout his life. Like all epics, there is a journey. Here you can find there is a journey undertaken in the course of the poem. Whitman's journey, however, is a spiritual one, from ignorance to self-knowledge. So, in epic, generally you find there is a journey. In Paradise Lost, you have seen how Satan undertakes a journey, right? Similarly, here there is a journey, but here the poetic persona undertakes not a physical journey, rather it is a spiritual journey. It is a spiritual journey, and you may say that in a journey there is a destination, there is a goal, and here the goal is to go from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, as has been said in our great Sanskrit prayer, Asotama Sadgamaya Tamosama Jyotirgamaya. O Lord, take me away from untruth or falsehood to truth, or take me away from this darkness to light. So here the journey of Whitman is a spiritual journey that is undertaken from ignorance to self-knowledge. The poem begins with a search for the self. The world persona looks around and tries to identify himself with the elements of the outside world. In the process of knowing the world outside, he hopes to know himself better. So, the poetic persona wants to discover himself in association with, the outer world. Through an interaction with the outer world, he tries to discover himself. The world persona begins by rooting himself firmly on American soil. He then reaches out to nature without check. See, nature without check. These are the words of the poet himself, through a primitive revealing of body in its surrounding. So, he first wants to enjoy nature in a very primitive manner, just like a primitive native in the lap of nature used to, rejoice in the lap of nature. So here, Whitman wants to, enjoy, he wants to revel in the lap of nature. The influence of society, books and the past are temporarily held in abeyance, as the body partakes of the original energy of nature. See, this is a typical transcendental view that man is very innocent, man is all good, but he is often corrupted by society or social institutions. So, here Whitman says that he will keep in abeyance, he will keep in temporary suspension, the learning, what he has learned from society, books, and the past. We learn many things when a child is born, he learns many things. he or she learns many things from books, from society, from schools, and to undertake a journey to start something fresh. It is very essential, it is very necessary to keep all these things, keep the influence of all these things in abeyance, in suspension, though temporarily. Then he wants to take part, the body wants to take part in the original energy. Original energy is put within inverted commas. These are the words of Whitman. Original energy of nature. Nature has an original energy, and body can take part in the original energy of nature once it is free from the influences of schools, books, and different other social institutions. This process of imbibing from and identification with the outside world takes the form and rhythm of inhalation and exhalation. The poet takes in impressions which go out as knowledge. When the poet undertakes his spiritual journey, as he embraces nature without any prejudice, without any bias, without any burden of the past knowledge or whatever he had learned in his school or the books, with a very free, open mind, what happens? He takes different impressions which go out as knowledge. The poet holds that there is a split in human personality, the I and me myself. One part is passive, detached and observant, while the other part is caught up in the hurly-burly of life. I is engaged in a round of activities, but beyond I stands for me myself. So Whitman thinks that there is a split in human personality. There are two important aspects. One is I and another is me myself. Whitman anticipates Jung in his distinction between ego and self. Carl Jung, the very famous psychologist, he had elaborately discussed about ego and human consciousness, and the way Whitman puts forward his view, he anticipates Jung in his distinction between ego and self. The ego being the center of consciousness, acting out a public social role, and self being more remote and inclusive. Ego is that aspect of the personality which is related to society, which is very actively involved in doing different things. It is playing different social roles. While on the other hand, self is something which is more remote and more inclusive. For Whitman, the search for self entails identity between body and soul, the I and the me myself, and the deep recesses of the mind which are brought up to the level of consciousness. So he speaks not only about body, he speaks about soul, and he speaks about, you can find a need of identity, a synthesis between, body and soul. The emergent self could be fully conscious and capable of experiencing ultimate union with God and the cosmos. So there is this aspect of spiritual growth, and the ultimate aim is to realize one's own self, or to have self-knowledge, or you can say it is the ultimate union with the cosmic energy, the energy of the cosmos, cosmic energy. So here, from the point of view of the epic journey, the journey here is very much there, which is definitely a spiritual journey the poet undertakes in the course of the entire 52 sections of the poem, Song of Myself. Now the poem is divided into different phases. These 52 sections, they are divided into different phases. Let us see that. According to critics, you can find the 52 sections of the poem can be divided into 5 different and distinct phases or parts. These 5 phases that make the journey of the supposed mystic in the poem complete. The first phase is the awakening of the soul. So the first phase is the awakening of the soul, and that is followed by the purification of the self. That is the second phase. And the third phase is the phase of illumination. And the fourth phase is about the dark night of the soul. And the fifth and final phase is the union. The union with cosmic energy. So the poetic self or the poet travels through different phases. Ultimately, the journey culminates in a union with the cosmic energy. Generally, section 1 to 5 are generally seen as the first phase where the self is awakened to the realization of the necessity for such a spiritual journey. Actually, the first phase is the awakening of the soul to the very realization that there is the need for a spiritual journey. Again, according to another observation, section 1 to 4 are seen as the exodium for the forthcoming sections. Here in the syllabus for Dibrugarh University, section 1 to 4, these 4 sections are prescribed for discussion. And what I personally believe that these 4 sections, they constitute the first phase of Whitman's Song of Myself. They constitute the first phase, that is about the awakening of his self. And awakening to what? It is an awakening to the fact that a journey is necessary, a spiritual journey is very much essential. So this is the realization which the soul is awakened and realizes the necessity to undertake a journey. So we will conclude this lecture here today, and in the next class, that will be the 4th video. This is the 3rd video. The 4th video, we will discuss all the 4 sections of Song of Myself, the section 1 to from section 1 to 4, which constitute the first phase of Song of Myself. And I will suggest the students to read the text thoroughly with reference to the notes given in the back of their books, and get acquainted with the different words, phrases and ideas, so that when I will be explaining the poem, they will find it very easy to understand. So all the best. Again, stay at home, stay safe, and if you think that the channel is useful, the talks are useful, you may subscribe it, like it, and subscribe by pressing the bell icon. See you again. Thank you very much.